The park was full of life that sunny afternoon. Children laughed as they ran across the green field. A group of teenagers played football, shouting with excitement. Families sat on benches, enjoying ice cream and fresh air. Music from a nearby street performer filled the area with cheerful energy. But in one quiet corner, beneath a big old tree, sat a girl no one noticed. Her name was Aisha. She was around 11 years old. Her small body looked weak, and her thin hands rested on the wheels of an old rusty wheelchair. Her dress was torn at the hem, and the shoes on her feet were too big, clearly not her size. Her hair was messy, and her face looked tired. But it was her eyes that spoke the loudest. They were sad, deeply sad, as if they had seen too much for someone so young. Aisha watched the other children play. She didn't laugh. She didn't clap. She just watched. Quietly. Silently. Almost. Visibly. Then something changed. A group of kids around her age were forming two teams for a game. They needed one more player. Aisha's heart beat faster. Maybe this time she would not be left out. Maybe this time they would say yes. She raised her hand slowly and whispered, "Can I play?" One of the kids turned around. His eyes fell. On her wheelchair, another child nudged him and said in a low voice, "She can't even run." They all looked at her, then turned away. No answer, no smile, nothing. Aisha's hand dropped back to her lap. Her face fell. She turned her wheelchair and moved back under the tree where no one could see her tears. She pulled her scarf over her eyes and cried quietly. Not loud tears, but the kind that comes from deep pain. She had felt this before, again and again, every time they chose someone else. Every time she was forgotten. She didn't know how long she sat there. Time passed slowly. The world around her was full of joy, but her corner felt frozen in sadness. Then a sound broke the silence. A low engine hum. A black luxury car slowly drove up near the park. It was sleek, shiny, and expensive. Everyone noticed it. Heads turned. Children stopped playing. Even the music performer paused for a second. The door opened and a tall man stepped out. He wore a clean, crisp suit. His shoes shone in the sunlight. His face looked serious, but there was something kind in his eyes. It was Rehan Malik, one of the city's most successful billionaires. Most people knew him from news channels, magazines, and big charity events, but no one expected to see him in this public park, dressed like an ordinary visitor. As Rehan stepped out, he looked around. He wasn't here for business or a meeting. He had come for fresh air to clear his mind. But his eyes stopped suddenly. Under the old tree, he saw her. Aisha. She wasn't doing anything, just sitting there, her head down, her shoulders shaking slightly. At first, he thought she was just resting. But as he looked closer, he realized she was crying. His chest tightened. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the loneliness on her face. Maybe it reminded him of someone or something from his past. But for some reason, he couldn't take his eyes off her. He walked slowly toward a bench nearby and sat down, not too close, but near enough to see her clearly. She didn't notice him. Her world was still filled with silence and pain. Rehan kept watching. People passed her by without a glance. Some even looked annoyed, as if her presence made them uncomfortable. A few children laughed loudly nearby. Completely unaware of her, he felt something heavy in his heart. Why was this little girl all alone? Where were her parents? Why was no one helping her? He watched as she took a small piece of bread from her pocket and broke it in half, eating slowly. The bread was dry and old. Then she wiped her eyes and looked up. For a brief moment, her eyes met his. Time froze. There was shock in her eyes. She wasn't used to people looking at her, really seeing her. Rehan didn't say a word. He simply nodded gently as if to say, "I see you." She quickly looked down again, unsure what to do. But something had already begun to change in Rehan's heart. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story, but he was sure of one thing. This was not just a poor girl in a wheelchair. There was a reason she had crossed his path today, and he was going to find out what it was. Rehan Malik sat on the bench, still watching the little girl under the tree. He had attended hundreds of meetings, made billion-dollar deals, and owned buildings across the city. But right now, nothing felt more important than the girl in front of him. Something about her tears didn't feel ordinary. He stood up slowly and began walking toward her. Aisha noticed his expensive shoes stop just beside her wheelchair. She looked up with wide, nervous eyes. She didn't recognize him. She didn't watch the news or read magazines. To her, he was just another rich man, and rich people usually didn't stop for someone like her. She wiped her face quickly, embarrassed. "I? Sorry, sir," she whispered. "I won't beg. I'm not here to ask for money." Rayan looked at her, surprised by her words. "I didn't say you were," he replied softly. She looked down again, fidgeting with her scarf. He knelt down to her level so she wouldn't have to look up. "What's your name?" he asked. "Aisha," she replied quietly. "Aisha, that's a beautiful name," he said with a gentle smile. "May I sit here with you for a moment?" She nodded slowly. No one had ever asked to sit with her before. Rayan sat beside her. There was a long pause. He didn't want to scare her. He just wanted to understand. "Do you come to this park often?" he asked. She nodded. "Every day. I like watching people laugh, even if I'm not part of it." His heart ached. "Where are your parents?" he asked carefully. Aisha hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her seat. "My mother died 2 years ago," she whispered. "And my father left when I was little. I don't know where he is." Rayan's chest felt heavy. This child had been alone for so long. "Who takes care of you?" he asked. "I live at the shelter down the road," she said. "They're kind, but it's not like having a family." He nodded slowly. "And school?" he asked. "I used to go," she said. "But after my wheelchair broke last year, it got harder to travel. The school stopped sending the van after some time." Silence followed. She turned to him suddenly and asked, "Why are you talking to me, sir?" Rayan looked her in the eyes. "Because you looked like you needed someone to notice." Aisha blinked. No one had ever said that to her. I'm used to being invisible," she said quietly. He shook his head gently. "You shouldn't." There was another long pause. Then Aisha asked the question that had been sitting in her heart. "Do you think someone like me could ever be chosen?" Rayan was confused. "Chosen for what?" Aisha looked away. "Anything. A game. Chance, a better life." He didn't answer right away. He remembered something. His own childhood, standing outside an orphanage gate hoping someone would take him in. "I think sometimes the world forgets the ones who matter most," he said softly. "But the right people always see them in the—" Aisha didn't fully understand what he meant, but his words felt warm. Just then, a group of kids ran by again, laughing. Aisha turned away, pretending not to care. Rayan noticed it. He felt anger rise inside him, not at the kids, but at the world that had left this girl behind. He looked at her carefully and said, "Would you join me for lunch today?" Aisha's eyes widened. "With you?" He nodded. "Yes, with me. I don't think they'd let me in the kind of place you go." "Then we'll go somewhere that doesn't care what clothes you wear," he replied. She smiled slightly for the first time. He stood up and gently reached for her wheelchair. "May I?" he asked. Aisha was quiet for a moment, then gave a shy "Dude." As he pushed her toward his car, people in the park turned and stared. Some whispered. A few even took photos, but Rayan didn't care. For once, he wasn't the billionaire everyone admired. He was just a man doing what should have been done long ago. He helped her into the car, folded her wheelchair, and placed it in the trunk with care. Inside the car, Aisha looked out the window, amazed. It was warm, soft music played, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. Aisha sat quietly in the back seat of the luxury car. Her tiny hands gripped the edge of the leather seat as she stared at the world outside. The city looked different through the window of a billionaire's car, cleaner, brighter, more alive. But deep inside her, the same question echoed over and over. Why is he helping me? Rayan Malik sat in the front seat, silent, focused on the road. He didn't say much, but he kept looking at her through the rearview mirror with gentle eyes, as if making sure she was okay. After a short drive, they stopped in front of a cozy restaurant. Not fancy, not too loud, but warm and welcoming. It was a place Rayan used to visit before he became rich, a place that reminded him of simpler times. He came around to her side and opened the door. Then, carefully, he lifted Aisha from the car and placed her in her wheelchair. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "No one's ever done that for me," she whispered. He smiled. "Maybe it's time someone did." Inside the restaurant, people looked up. Some stared, recognizing the billionaire. Others were just surprised to see him dining with a poor girl in a wheelchair. But Rayan ignored them all. A waiter approached, nervous. "Mr. Malik, would you like your usual table?" "No," he replied. "We'll sit by the window today." Aisha's eyes sparkled. She had never sat by a restaurant window. She had never even been in a real restaurant. They ordered food. Rayan asked her what she liked. She didn't know what to say. She had only eaten basic meals from the shelter. "Try the chicken curry and naan," he said. "It's my favorite." She nodded shyly. While waiting for the food, Rayan asked, "Aisha, what do you dream about?" She looked confused. "Dream?" "Yes," he smiled. "What do you wish for, if anything was possible?" Aisha looked down, thinking. Then she said softly, "I want to go to school again. I want to learn things, read books, and maybe one day help kids like me." Rayan stared at her. This girl, who had been ignored by the world, still wanted to give back. It moved something deep inside him. Their food arrived, and Aisha tasted her first bite. Her eyes widened. "It's so good," she said, smiling through her first real joy of the day. Rayan watched her eat, silently promising himself something. When they finished, he paid the bill and helped her back to the car. But instead of driving to the shelter, he turned in a different direction. Aisha noticed. "Where are we going?" she asked. "I want to show you something," he said. After a few minutes, they arrived at a tall building with colorful walls and a big board outside. "Sunrise School for Special Children." Aisha's eyes filled with curiosity. "This school has ramps, wheelchair paths, and teachers who understand," Rayan said gently. "I helped build it 5 years ago, but I never found the right student to sponsor, until today." Aisha froze. "You mean me?" He nodded. "If you want, you can start next week." Her hands covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Is this really happening?" Rayan stepped closer, kneeling down. "It is. You deserve it," she cried, this time not from pain but from hope. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. "I'll study hard, I promise." He smiled. "I know you will." They stood outside the school for a while, watching children play inside, some in wheelchairs, some with braces, all smiling. Aisha whispered, "I've never felt chosen before, but today I do." Rayan looked at her, his eyes filled with emotion. He remembered a boy from long ago, a boy who once sat in an orphanage waiting to be chosen too. And now, maybe, he had found someone who would carry his dreams forward. Aisha couldn't sleep that night. She lay on the old mattress in the shelter, her hands folded over her chest, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, the sounds of other children sleeping. A soft snore here, a cough there. None of it comforted her. Her mind was full of thoughts, of that beautiful lunch, of the school with big glass windows, of Mr. Rayan Malik, his kind smile, his warm voice, his gentle hands when he helped her into the car. Was it real? Or just a dream that would vanish tomorrow? She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, an old photograph wrinkled at the edges. It showed a woman, young and bright-eyed, holding a little girl who had no wheelchair then. That little girl was Aisha. The woman was her mother. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered, "Mama, did you see today? Someone saw me. Someone chose me." But then came the pain again. The pain she hid so well, because Aisha didn't just grow up poor, she grew up broken. When she was only 6 years old, her mother died in a bus accident. Aisha survived, but the crash crushed her spine. Since then, she couldn't walk. Her relatives didn't want a disabled child. One by one, they left her behind. First an uncle, then an aunt, then a neighbor dropped her at the shelter saying, "She's not our problem." Since then, she had lived among strangers, forgotten by the world, until now. The next morning, Rayan Malik sat at his office desk, distracted. His assistant came in with files, but he waved her off. His thoughts were on Aisha. There was something about her, something he couldn't forget. It wasn't just her words or her pain. It was her eyes. They reminded him of someone. He opened his laptop and typed into a search engine, "Orphanage near Shahi Park, Girls' Shelter." Within seconds, he found it. Safe haven for girls. He clicked through photos until he saw a group picture. In the middle of the group, in a wheelchair, sat Aisha. He zoomed in, and then his hand froze. His heart skipped. He leaned closer. There, in Aisha's hand, was the photo she always carried. A woman holding a baby. Rayan knew that face. His hand trembled as he picked up his phone. "Call the shelter," he told his assistant. "Ask for the girl in the wheelchair. Her name is Aisha." "Sir, is everything okay?" the assistant asked. "I think I know her mother," he whispered. At the shelter, the phone rang. The manager picked up. Aisha was called into the small office. She looked confused but went in. "Someone wants to speak to you," the manager said, handing her the phone. She held it carefully. "Hello? Aisha, it's me, Rayan." Her heart jumped. "Yes, sir," she said softly. "I saw the photo you were holding, the woman in it. Where did you get that?" "It's my mother," Aisha said. "I've had this photo since she passed away." "Why?" There was a long pause. "I think I knew her," Rayan said slowly. "Her name was Mariam, right?" Aisha gasped. "Yes." Rayan's voice became shaky. "She was my first love, before I became rich, before everything changed." Silence. The kind of silence that makes time stop. "You knew my mother?" Aisha whispered. "I did more than know her, Aisha. We were in love. We were going to get married, but I went abroad for study, and when I returned, she had vanished. No one knew where she went. I searched everywhere." Aisha's eyes filled with tears. "She told me she loved someone once, a good man, but she never said your name." Rayan swallowed hard. "That's because I failed her," he said. "I left her behind without meaning to." Aisha held the phone tightly. "Then does that mean—" Rayan breathed deeply. "I don't know yet, but I need to find out. Please meet me tomorrow. Bring that photo." "Yes," she said. "I will." As she hung up, her heart raced. For the first time, her past was opening like a book. And in that book, there might be something more than pain. There might be answers, and maybe family. The morning sun peeked through the dusty window of the shelter. Aisha woke up early. Her heart beat fast as she sat in her wheelchair, staring at the only thing she had left from her mother, the old photograph. She touched her mother's face in the photo and whispered, "Is this the truth, Mama? Is he the man you loved, her?" Fingers trembled, but her heart felt warm. For years she thought she had no one, but now, maybe that was changing. The shelter van dropped her off near the cafe where Rayan Malik had asked to meet. She was nervous, holding the photo tightly in her lap. The cafe was fancy, with glass walls and clean white tables. People looked at her as she wheeled herself in, some with pity, some with surprise. But Aisha didn't care because today, her life might change. Rayan was already there, sitting by the window. He stood up the moment he saw her, walked over, and helped her with the chair. "You came," he said softly. "Yes," Aisha replied, her voice almost a whisper. They sat across from each other. The silence between them felt heavy. Then Aisha slowly took out the photo and placed it on the table. Rayan picked it up. His hands shook. He stared at the picture for a long time. Then, with teary eyes, he said, "It's her. It's really Mariam. Aisha nodded. She always kept this photo with her. After she died, I never let it go. Rayan took a deep breath. I remember the day we took this. We were both so happy, young and poor, but dreaming big. Aisha looked at him. Why did you leave her? He sighed. I didn't want to. I got a scholarship to study abroad. Mariam told me to go. She said she would wait. But when I came back, her house was empty. Her number didn't work. No one knew where she had gone. She was pregnant when you left, Aisha said. Rayan's eyes widened. What? She never told you? Aisha asked. He leaned back, shocked. No, I never knew. Are you saying? Yes, she said slowly. She told me you were a good man, that's all. She said you would have come for us, but life got in the way. Rayan felt something explode inside his heart. He looked at Aisha, really looked at her. Her face, her eyes, they had Mariam's light, and suddenly everything made sense. You're my daughter, he said, voice shaking. Aisha looked down. I hoped you might be, but I wasn't sure. Rayan reached across the table, gently held her hand. I'm sure. Tears rolled down both their cheeks. Years of pain, years of loneliness, years of unanswered questions, all ending in this one moment. Outside the cafe, people passed by, unaware of the life-changing moment happening inside. But for Rayan and Aisha, time had stopped. I want to take care of you, he said. Not just because I feel guilty, but because you're my child, my daughter. Aisha's lips trembled. Do you really mean that? I do, he said firmly. You'll never feel unwanted again. I'll give you the best doctors, a real home, everything you deserve. I don't care about money, Aisha said quietly. I just wanted someone to choose me. Rayan wiped his eyes. Then let me choose you, Aisha, forever. That evening, Rayan brought her to his house. The gates opened. Aisha looked around in amazement. The mansion stood tall with gardens, fountains and lights that sparkled like stars. But what touched her more than anything was the giant photo Rayan had on the wall. It was Mariam, her mother. You kept this? She asked. I never stopped loving her, Rayan said. And now I have you. A part of her is back in my life. He took her to a special room. This is your room now, he said. The bed was soft, the windows wide, the shelves already filled. With books and drawings, Aisha stared at it all. I've never had a room before. Now you do, he smiled. And you'll never be alone again. That night, Aisha sat by the window in her new home, watching the stars. She held the photo, again. But this time she smiled, because now she had more than a memory. She had a father, she had hope, she had a future. Morning sunlight flooded the wide windows of the mansion. The birds outside chirped gently, and the air smelled of roses from the garden. Aisha opened her eyes slowly. For a moment she forgot where she was. Soft bed, clean sheets, curtains swaying gently. She sat up in her wheelchair and looked around. Her room, her very own room. For so many years she had slept in dark corners of shelters, cold footpaths, and sometimes even bus stations. But today, she woke up in a room filled with peace and warmth. There was a knock on the door. It was Rayan. He was holding a tray with breakfast, fresh toast, eggs, fruit, and juice. Good morning, sweetheart, he said softly. Aisha couldn't speak. No one had ever brought her breakfast before. Thank you, she whispered. He smiled. From now on, you'll eat well every day. No more sleeping hungry. She took the tray with both hands, still in disbelief. As she ate, Rayan sat beside her. There's something I want to show you today, he said. If you feel ready. Aisha looked curious. What is it? Come with me, he smiled. An hour later, the car stopped in front of a big white building with glass doors. Aisha looked out the window. Where are we? She asked. This is the best rehabilitation center in the city, Rayan replied. I spoke to the doctors. They believe there's a chance you might walk again if we try. Aisha gasped. You mean I could stand, walk again? Rayan nodded. It won't be easy. It'll take time. But I'll be with you every step of the way. Tears welled up in her eyes. Why are you doing all this for me? Because I should have been there from the start, he said. And now that I've found you, I will never let you feel alone again. Aisha's lips trembled. I've never even dreamed of walking again. Then let's dream it together, Rayan whispered. Inside the center, a kind doctor examined Aisha. She explained how her injury had caused damage, but with therapy, special exercises, and support, she might regain some ability. Even small progress is a victory, the doctor said gently. Aisha nodded. I'm ready to try. And so began the hardest journey of her life. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, Rayan brought her to the center. Aisha worked with the therapists, stretching, moving her legs, using machines and holding onto bars. At first it was painful. Sometimes, she cried. Sometimes she wanted to quit, but every time she felt like giving up, Rayan was there. You're strong, he would say. You've already come so far. Don't stop now. And she didn't. With each passing day, she became stronger. She could move her legs slightly. Then, she could stand with help. The day she took her first small step, everyone clapped. Rayan's eyes filled with tears. You did it, he whispered. No. Aisha smiled. We did it. One evening after therapy, Rayan took her to a small cafe. They sat by the window, the same cafe where they had first talked. You know, Aisha said quietly, I used to sit in that park across the street, watching people eat, laugh, and live. I used to wish just once that someone would see me. Rayan reached across the table and held her hand. I saw you, he said. Not just with my eyes, but with my heart. She smiled. You gave me a life I never thought I'd have, he smiled back. And you gave me something even greater, purpose, a second chance, a family. Just then, a little girl walked by selling flowers. Aisha called her over and bought 2 roses. She handed one to Rayan. For everything you've done for me, she said. He took it, touched. And this, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket, is for you. Aisha opened it. Inside was a necklace with a pendant shaped like a pair of small shoes. She looked up, confused. Rayan smiled. You traded shoes for bread that day, but now those shoes are a symbol of how far you've come. Aisha touched the necklace gently, tears falling from her eyes. I'll wear it forever, she whispered. That night, back at the mansion, Aisha stood in front of the mirror with help from the walker. She looked at herself, not as a poor girl in a wheelchair, but as someone who was becoming whole again, someone loved, someone strong, someone seen. Months had passed since Aisha first took her small step at the rehab center. Now she was stronger, not just in her body, but in her heart. The shy, forgotten girl in the wheelchair was slowly becoming a confident young woman with dreams. The mansion felt like home. The staff treated her like family, and Rayan, he had become more than just her guardian. He was her world. But Aisha still wondered one thing. Why had he helped her? One evening, Rayan asked her to join him in the garden. The sun was setting. Orange and golden light touched everything. Flowers swayed gently in the breeze. Rayan stood near a bench holding something in his hand. Aisha, he said softly, there's something I never told you. She looked curious. What is it? He opened his palm. There was a faded photo. Inside, it was of a younger Aisha, standing with her mother outside a small house. Her eyes widened in shock. Where did you get this? Rayan smiled gently. I took that photo many years ago. Her heart pounded. You knew my mother? He nodded slowly. Your mother, Zareen, was my friend. A long time ago, before I became rich. We both grew up in the same village. We were close. He paused, his voice soft. But then life pulled us in different directions. I moved to the city to study. We lost touch, I didn't know she had a daughter. I didn't know she passed away." Tears fell from Aisha's eyes. She always told me stories of a friend named Rayan, who used to share bread with her, who promised to help her one day if he became successful. Rayan's eyes filled with tears too. "And I failed her," he whispered. "Until the day I saw you in that park. I thought I was helping a stranger. But I was helping the daughter of the woman who once helped me survive." Aisha's lips trembled. All the kindness, the gifts, the second chances suddenly made sense. Her past wasn't just full of pain. It was connected to something greater. It was fate. The next morning, Rayan invited reporters and news cameras to the mansion for a surprise event. He stood proudly with Aisha by his side, her hand in his. He made an announcement. A foundation would be launched in Aisha's name. It would provide food, shelter, education, and support to disabled children and orphans across the country. Reporters clapped. Cameras flashed. But the biggest surprise came when Rayan turned to Aisha and said, "Would you like to give the first speech?" Aisha froze. She had never spoken in front of so many people. But Rayan nodded, encouraging her. So she rolled forward to the microphone and slowly stood up with the help of her walker. The crowd gasped. "My name is Aisha," she began, her voice calm but strong. "I was once forgotten, invisible, left behind in a wheelchair while the world walked past me." She paused. "But one person saw me. He believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." She looked at Rayan. "I was never asking for pity, just a chance. Today I stand not just on my feet but with purpose. If someone like me can rise again, so can anyone." The audience stood up and applauded. Some cried. That night back in her room, Aisha stood at the window looking at the stars. She wore the necklace with the shoe pendant and held the photo of her mother close to her heart. She whispered, "Mama, your friend kept his promise." Behind her, Rayan stood quietly, smiling. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You changed my life too, Aisha," he said. "I didn't just find you. I found peace." And for the first time in many years, both of them felt complete. Not because of money, not because of fame, but because two broken hearts had found each other and healed together.